Hey everyone! Thanks for joining. I'm Sarah. I'm with best-selling author Robert
Hi,
Kiyosaki,
Dan.
and we are here in the Rich Dad conference room. It's a hugely exciting day here at Rich Dad, but before I turn it over to Robert, we will try to take questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments section, and then we'll try to get to those at the end. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Robert and take it away.
I'm very happy. Thank you, Sarah. And as you guys know, there's a whole new generation taking over the business here, so I'm kind of working for Sarah today, and she's telling me what to do. It used to be I told people what to do, but now she tells me what to do. So it's a whole new world here. Anyway, I have a quick question. What did school teach you about money? I'll ask that question again. You may went through college and all this and got your master's degrees. What did school really teach you about money? And the answer for most people is zero, nada, nothing, you know? So when I was 9 years old, this is how the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad started out, for those who don't know this, is when I was 9 years old, I went to a really rich school, except I was a poor kid. And this was in Hilo, Hawaii, you know, and it was a sugar plantation town. We were basically paid slaves to the rich white guys. That's how it was set up then. Plus, it was right after World War II, and the Japanese weren't the most popular guys on earth at that time. So it's a very interesting time to be going to a rich white elementary school. So it was only during school I realized I was poor. You know, my father was the head of education, but I was a poor kid. So I remember raising my hand, asking my fourth grade school teacher when I was 9 years old, I said, when are you going to teach us about money? And the teacher said to me, we don't teach money at school. And I went, but why? Why not? You know, I want to be rich like my classmates here. You know, says, yes, but you're here to go to school to get a job. And I said, but isn't the object of getting a job to get money? And the teacher said, well, yes, but we don't talk about money at school. And suddenly I could hear I thought I was back in Sunday school again, you know, where the love of money is the root of all evil. I mean, I heard that one. So I'm sitting there in school going, well, why don't you teach me about money? She says, you're just to get a job. That's what you're supposed to do. So I can work for my classmates. Is that what you're telling me to do? And she just went berserk. So I went home, and my old man, poor dad, you know, he's Stanford graduate, University of Chicago, Northwestern. He has all the credentials, University of Hawaii. He ultimately got a PhD. And I went home to him, and he was the boss. He was my teacher's boss. And I said, hey, Dad, how come we don't learn about money at school? And he says, we just don't. Now, isn't that curious to you? Why don't they teach people about money at school? So that's really where the start of Rich Dad, Poor Dad began. And I didn't realize it at this time, but that was kind of my quest, you know, my mission, my thing I want to find out. I want to find out, why don't they teach money at school? And today, as you know, the gap between the rich and the poor is widening and widening and widening. You know, when I was a kid, everybody was worried about the poor people. You know, oh, we've got to save the poor. Today, most people know the poor are toast. There is very little you can do for a poor person. You know, their lives are really miserable. The people they're worried about are the middle class. The middle class is shrinking. You know, people say, oh, well, if I go to school, I can get a job. That's an obsolete idea. See, today we have the rise of robots, or this technology here. And the rise of robots says America can now outproduce China in manufacturing, but it will do so with robots, not human beings. So the idea of going to school to get a job is an obsolete idea. So my next question to you is this: did your parents ever say to you, go to school to get a job? Is that what they told you? Did they tell you to work hard? Did they tell you to save, I have a chest cold. Did they tell you to save money? Did they tell you to buy a house because a house is an asset? Did they tell you to get out of debt? Did they tell you to invest for the long term in the stock market? That's not financial education, sports fans. That's a sales pitch. Now, all of that information, go to school, get a job, work hard, all that, worked for my generation, the old guys. I turned 70 this year. And that worked for my generation, but it's not working for yours. And so that's why 20 years ago, in 1997, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And what I'm here to talk to you today about is the 20th anniversary, and I want to thank this young lady here. She's so excited because she's promoting it, she's in charge, she's my boss. But I'm happy to welcome all of you to the Rich Dad family and to this podcast, because we're all one family here. We're doing our best to support the mission of the Rich Dad Company, which is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity, not just Americans, not just white guys or Asian guys or black guys or Hispanic guys. We're here to work for everybody. So I thank Sarah, I thank for the team. They're all young enough to be my kids, and they're the bosses now. That's the whole new world we're in, because if some of you are still, going to school and learning nothing about money, you're wasting your time. Not that education is not valuable, but you're not getting what you need to know today. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was created. I understand by talking to Sarah, you guys police our network here. If somebody goes offline, off philosophy, they pound on them, right?
Yeah, our community is so awesome in that way.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for protecting the message, the brand, and the mission, because that's what we're here to do. We're not here just working for ourselves. We all have a purpose in life, and our purpose is to support everybody else having their dreams come true. Mm-hmm. So anyway, thank you and welcome to this program. It's 20 years ago. As the Beatles said, it was 20 years ago, and it's 20 years ago. In 1997, when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I know my mother-in-law said, that book will never sell. And every publisher turned the book down in 1997. They said, you don't know what you're talking about. Because as I said, the idea of go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, buy a house, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in the stock market is fool's advice. It worked for my generation. It's an industrial age idea. Today, we're in her generation. They need new ideas. This is the information age. So the reason Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written is because we are at the edge or the transition from industrial age thinking, go to school, get a job, and save money, get out of debt, to information age thinking, which is her generation, or what my Rich Dad taught me. So would you mind telling them some of the differences about working here at Rich Dad? I encourage you to be entrepreneurs and all that.
Right. So I've been at Rich Dad now for about a year and a half.
She's the star of the show. She took over the whole company already.
Who knew? And my previous jobs in life were always in marketing and social media. But coming to Rich Dad, it's such a different philosophy. And one of the things that is so different is we are encouraged to start our own businesses and
to be entrepreneurs,
to become entrepreneurs and really live the lifestyle or live your lessons that are taught in the book. So we really walk the walk here at Rich Dad. And
do I mess with you guys?
No. No. And that's the thing. So one of the funny, at a previous employer,
I have no idea what they're doing.
If you moonlight or whatever, and your boss walks by, you quickly switch your computer page real fast. But here, because it's so encouraged, we've built this great little network, even among ourselves, of entrepreneur and like-minded people.
All the employees.
We're all that way, and so it's really a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and I talk to them and say, what business are you in? What are you investing in? Mm-hmm. And our whole company, the whole Rich Dad company here in Scottsdale, Arizona, people are free to start their own businesses. They have access to all of our advisors, right? You can ask them questions and all this. So we're purely an educational company for the information age. If you're working for a company that you're afraid to tell your boss you have a network marketing business on the side, or you're investing on the side, or if you're starting a business, they fire you. That's an industrial age company. Get it? So that's why be careful of who you work for or with today. It's very important for your future.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for that opportunity. I mean, and like Robert said, we not only have access to him and his expertise and his lessons and everything he's learned over the years, but his advisors, the network he's built, we have access to. We have a wealth of books and information to pull from, so that we're really encouraged to learn and make mistakes. And there's no better working environment I can think of.
Yeah, it's okay. In fact, I get upset if they're not making mistakes.
Right.
How do you learn if you don't make mistakes? A baby can't walk unless he or she falls down, then stands up again. But a traditional education system, if a kid falls down, they go, you stupid kid, you'll never walk, How do you learn that way? In my world, or in Rich Dad's world, is the more mistakes you make and you learn from them. Now, if you make a mistake and you don't admit to it, then you're a liar. You're like Clinton, you know what I mean? He had sex, but she didn't, or whatever it was he said. But you know what I mean? There's too many guys who are lying today because they're afraid to admit they made a mistake. It's only a mistake. Look, having sex in the White House is not a crime. Lying is. That's called, lying is. So that's the big difference in society today. So at Rich Dad, I want to thank our president, Shane Caniglio, who's our chief technology officer and president. He gets it. He's an entrepreneur, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's it like working for Shane?
Shane, he carries your philosophy. He leaves us alone.
It's his philosophy too. That's why.
and lets us do our thing. He really empowers us to use everything to our advantage. Everything we have access to.
Yeah. And I'm very happy. I'm proud of this company. I'm proud of Sarah, the young people coming up, because that's really my job here, is to kind of get out of the way and let their geniuses come out. And we have some geniuses in this company.
We really do.
Yeah. Because if you're allowed to just let your spirit take over, do what you want, make a mistake, it's okay to make mistakes, and admit you don't know something, you get stronger spiritually. Yeah. Then your genius comes out. So really that's what the whole purpose of the Rich Dad Company is for. And that's why we're happy to have you as part of our family and to share our wins and our losses, our ups and our downs, and I appreciate that. So it's an exciting time, but as you know, the economy is, some people say it's good, and it's very good for the rich. Unfortunately, as I said, when I was a kid, everybody was talking about saving the poor. Now they're talking about saving the middle class. And unfortunately, when I talk about the middle class who are in trouble, that's the middle class at my age, my generation, the baby boom generation. Most of them have college degrees, but they know nothing about money. They went to school and they got their college degree and they learned nothing about money. So today in America, we have this war. Today in the world, we have this war between the haves and those who are losing everything right now. So that's why the Rich Dad Company is, in my opinion, the right company at the right time. And again, it makes me happy to hear that you're all part of the Rich Dad family. But more importantly, you police the message. Mm-hmm. Anybody's here mucking around, pound on them. You know what I mean? Get them.
And they do.
I love it. So let me give you a little history about the 20th anniversary edition of Rich Dad. I assume most of you have read it, and I thank you for that. But I'm telling you why the 20th anniversary edition is new and different. The content is the same. Say you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, old version, or the new version, the same. What is different with the 20th anniversary edition is why I wrote the book. In other words, it's what happened in the past that caused me to write the book in 1997. But more importantly, what's going to happen in the future. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the 20th anniversary edition is to help you see the future. So let me show you how I predict the future here. This here, I hope you can see it.
Here, I'll hold it, Robert.
Okay.
I can hold it a little bit closer.
What you have here is 120-something years of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And you can see it was flat for most of the time. I got to go to here.
Yep.
What happened here was the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve Bank, and the richest people in the world started messing with our money. You see, the U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold. In 1971, President Tricky Dick Nixon took us off the gold standard. And that allowed the U.S. government to print as much money as they wanted. Now, this may not make much sense to you, but this caused this boom that went to here. This peak right here, this first peak, is the year 2000. So that first peak, let me see if I can get it here. There, right? There. And then there was, and it goes, in other words, what you're seeing here, there were 3 peaks right after the start of the information age. See, 2000 was the end of the industrial age. So in 2000, the first bust was the dot-com bust. It was the age of the internet coming online. So that causes huge bust. It caused a commotion in the market. And then what happened was the real estate bust. So all the people that bought that, drank the Kool-Aid of buy a house because it's an asset, you got your butt handed to you. So millions of people around 2005 to 2000, bear with me, that's a peak inside here. They got their butts handed to them. They lost their homes. They found their house is not an asset. And then what happened in 2008 was the banking crisis. And that banking crisis, the crash started back here, the moment they could print money. So what's happening now, the ultra-rich are controlling the banks of the world. That's what, let's leave it up, that's fine. They're controlling the banks. In the year 1990, there was 47 major banks in America. So in 1990, there was 47 major banks. By the year 2000, there was only 17 left. And today, there's 4. So the rich control the world, as I'm saying, through the Federal Reserve System, you know, the government, the U.S. Treasury, and all this, the ultra-rich. Meanwhile, you and me, the regular people of the world, are, you know, going to school, getting a job, but they don't teach you this in school. So that's why we're in a crisis. The question is, if you look, you see, this is where we are today. So for those of you who are investing for the long term, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, let me see if I can find it for you, just went over 20,000. All-time high. The question is, what's going to happen next? Are you going to invest for the long term? For those of you who are millennials and just starting out right now, if you have money in a 401k or an IRA or an RRSP in Canada or a super in Australia, you might lose everything because you're following bad advice. You're following industrial age advice, not information age advice. So that's why I created the Rich Dad Company. Now look, this is where the Rich Dad Company was created, right there, 1997, because I could see this coming. I'll sort of get it was right here, 1997. So that's why I said in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the rich don't work for money. The reason is because the people that work for money pay the highest taxes. So I don't have a job. So they pick on the people who are workers, employees. They pick on doctors, even the worst. All over the world, the tax laws are the same. So financial education must include taxes, okay? So in 1997, I said the rich don't work for money, and then everybody criticized me. Then I also said your house is not an asset. And they said, are you kidding me? And then I said in 2005, it crashed again. People lost their houses, they lost everything because they're using houses as ATMs because they couldn't make enough money at their jobs. And then I said savers would be losers. In 2008, that was the banking crash here. It came all the way down here. Today we have negative interest rates. And mommy and daddy are still saying to the kids, save money. Get out of debt and save money. That's the worst advice possible. That's industrial age advice. So that's why in 1997 I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of this came true because I could see most of it. I couldn't see all of it, but I could see most of it coming true. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the next 20 years, from 2020 on, your generation, for most of you, everything's going to be different. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this 20th anniversary edition, explains this process, why I wrote it, because I could see this. It hadn't happened yet. It was in the future. But the 20th anniversary edition will give the ability to see into the future. And that's why I support you. That's why I thank you guys for being part of the Rich Dad family, supporting your education, supporting yourselves, policing the site. So let me show you a couple other charts here that may be of interest and explain to you why I'm, excuse me. So if you could hold this up, this side here. Hold it closer. Look at that. That little blip there was the giant crash of 1929. It wasn't anything. It was a pimple. It was a raindrop on the ocean of the economy. It was nothing. And all these economists, oh, the giant crash of 1929. Well, look at what's coming. The next crash, and unfortunately it will come, because our markets are so manipulated, because our banking system, our treasury system, our politicians, as you know, it's crooked. It is rigged against us. So the next crash is going to make the giant crash of 1929 look like nothing. Now, this is what I'm really afraid of. Turn to the next. What you see here is the Great Depression. Many people said it only lasted 3 years. In actuality, the Great Depression lasted 25 years, from 1929 to 1954. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the 20th anniversary edition, is designed to prepare you for what's coming after 2020. So that's why when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and every editor, you can take that down, turned me down, they said I didn't know what I was talking about. And now everything I'm saying is coming true. Unfortunately, it's worse than what I foresaw. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, and I think that's why this is prime time. It's been 20 years. So you have a whole new generation of adults who...
You guys didn't even know the first .com crash,
and so I think that's why it's now celebrating 20 years is so important to not only your generation to see. You were right all
my
along.
generation's toast. You know that. You're going to have to take care of them.
But now we're coming up and we can benefit too, although we can see your hindsight. And everybody always says 2020 is hindsight. We have that luxury of being able to look back and say,
now I can see what's going to come.
Now I can see what's going to come.
And we have so many guys, younger, they could be my grandkids. I'm so old, and they're coming on. And these kids, like, was it Fred Lamb?
Yeah,
it's about that big. He was a dishwasher 4 years ago, and now he's a multimillionaire because he's an online millionaire.
Yeah.
And so the thing that what we're doing today is the very medium very which you have. But you have to shift your thinking from go to school and get a job and save money to a Rich Dad way of looking at it. If you can do that, this technology will make it so much easier to become a multimillionaire, possibly a billionaire today. Look at Zuckerberg. Look at Jobs. Those guys became billionaires because of technology. But if you're still putzing around, listening to your mommy and your daddy, go to school, get a job. And again, I'll say it, education is very important. But be careful who your teachers are. Aren't most teachers, unfortunately, most are poor people. They're good people, but they're poor people. They drank the Kool-Aid. They got a job, they're working hard, they joined the labor teachers union. They save money, they have a teacher's pension, which is bankrupt. In California, it's called the CalPERS, the biggest public employees pension fund in history. It's bankrupt. And all these California employees will say, oh, I got an employee. I have a pension. They don't have a pension. It's bankrupt because interest rates went all the way down to almost zero today in America and zero in some countries. So that's why savers are losers. So 20 years ago, I was saying all this, and now it's coming true. So I want to make sure that you choose your teachers wisely. You don't have to listen to us. There's other great teachers. Like for most people, Susie Orman is a pretty good teacher. If you have no plans on being rich, you just want to survive, Susie Orman is good. She'll tell you to cut up your credit cards, which I don't do. I love my credit card. And I don't know how you can survive without a credit card, can you? I mean, God. And, just save money. She goes, you're denied. You can't have that puppy. Don't have, It's just not my gig. I'd rather have the nice clothes and nice cars. I don't want to live in poverty. But Susie's a great first step. Then my other friend is Dave Ramsey, who says live debt free. I want you to know I always brag how much debt I'm in, right? Like between 2008 and today, I borrowed $300 million, nearly $500 million of debt, because there's good debt and bad debt. So what Dave is talking about is get out of bad debt. And that's good advice for those who are financially illiterate. They don't know the difference. And I'm debt-free, I'm debt-free. Good. That's not what the rich do. You see, so choose your teachers wisely. So there's Susie Orman for the poor, Dave Ramsey for the vast middle class who are in financial trouble today. They may have a college degree, but they learned nothing about money, so they should go debt-free. And there's a rich dad crowd. I mean, even Tony Robbins, he's talking about billionaires today, but he recommends buying ETFs. I don't buy ETFs. That's very middle-class investing. It's good. It'll make you some money, but I would rather do it differently. So there's 3 levels of education, and I thank you guys for being part of Rich Dad, because wouldn't you rather be rich?
Yeah, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't you rather have a nice car? Wouldn't you rather have a nice home or things like this? Wouldn't you rather be free? Wouldn't you rather work in a company you can do what you like and you're free to come and go? And that's a difference of philosophy here. So before we close, I want to bring up a very bad subject, and this is my friend here, Donald Trump. And this came out, I think, 2004 or something, I don't remember. But he's a good friend of mine. I know he's very unpopular. I know he's said, I don't agree with anything, not anything, I don't agree with much of what he says. I think what he says about Muslims and religious and race and all that are off base. His comments about women, I have to agree, most men do think that way. You shouldn't say it out loud, but it's tasteful. Nonetheless, he's a great man. He's a very smart man. My wife, Kim, loves him. We're good friends of his. Kim knows most of the women that work for him. They love him. He treats them like queens. He gives them so much authority. So what he is on stage is not the same person we see in public, so that's in defense of him. Yet if you don't like him, I understand. Yet I'm the only author, the only entrepreneur that shares 2 covers with him. And the reason for that is that's how much he and I believe in financial education. Trump is actually very liberal. He says every child should have free health care, free. He can't say that out loud because every Republican would jump all over him. But he says we don't give free health care to the young. We pay for it when they're older, ultimately. So he's very much that, and he's very much into financial education. And he realizes the past, he's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. He promises to do that. Because our schools without financial education have left billions of people, my generation, without anything. How many of you have family members who have nothing, who are old guys? How many of you have parents who have nothing? So Trump is a very big-hearted man. He's also a tough SOB. It's when he and I do business together, we may be friends, but it's football. You play tough, he plays tough. And that's the real world, sweetheart. Do you know what I mean? So Trump is a good guy, but that's the level of financial education. I don't agree with him on much of what he says. I do hear racist overtones and religious slurs. And that's uncalled for. And his comments about women should be kept in the locker room. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, he is going to shake it up. He's going to bring change. And that's why I'm concerned about you, because much of the change may not be good for those still operating on industrial age financial information, which is go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term in the stock market. That's obsolete advice. So that's why we started the Rich Dad Company. Any comments there?
So I just want to get in there. I'm watching all these comments come through, and I love that everybody's listening, and they're wondering how can they get the 20th anniversary edition. And so I have, so we kind of sorry, I'm pointing. You can't see what I'm pointing at. In the top of the comment section, we have the URL richdad20.com, and that's where you can go and get your pre-order of the 20th anniversary edition.
And this is my special bonus because I love you guys so much. Notice, Trump and I use the word love a lot. He says, I love you guys. He's a very good man. He's a son of a bitch, but he's a good man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He is a son of a bitch. But anyway, as a special gift for those of you listening today, for the first 100, I will personally sign and autograph the book to you. In other words, if your name is Joe Smith, I will say to Joe Smith, thank you, Robert Kiyosaki. Personalize it. Now, that's a very important step because these are very limited copies you will be getting. And anyway, I thank you. That's my way of saying thank you for listening. That's what I can do.
Yeah, I think it's done. You're going to be busy.
Well, it's only 100. Hey, just for that, know that, I am the #1 personal finance author of all times, which is not bad for a guy who flunked out of high school because he can't write. It's not that I can't write. The teachers disagreed with what I wrote. Big difference between not writing or being a bad writer and being a controversial writer. So anyway, I'll be very happy to sign the books for you, and I thank you for interested in your own financial education, because I can't save you, but you can save yourselves and your families.
And I just want to make one last announcement. I don't know if I've even shared this with you, but because we're all about teaching the next generation and empowering those around us, for the pre-order period only, you buy one copy, and we're giving you a second copy free. We want you to, here at Rich Dad, we believe that success is something to be shared, right?
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. And so go to richdad20.com, buy your first copy, and we're going to throw in a second copy for you absolutely free.
And for the first 100, I'll
And the
autograph.
first 100 will be autographed.
I don't want to burn my hand out.
We don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay. And then the last thing is we want to hear how your life has changed. We know that Robert's got millions of followers all around the world. And we know that many of your lives have been impacted by Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so if you on Robert's Facebook page see the hashtag Rich Dad Changed My Life, click that button and you can submit your story and tell us how Rich Dad, Poor Dad has changed your life.
I would love to hear that, because that's the juice. I have enough. Money is money. I like money, but I'd rather hear from you and how the message has helped your life. How both my Rich Dad and my Poor Dad, because both men were great men. They're both passed on today, but it's nice to see how the message is being passed on to them.
All right. So. That's all we have for today. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, it's just going to be a very exciting time ahead. Unfortunately, my concern for my friend Donald is that he's going to be blamed for much of the chaos that's coming. But the chaos was already coming. There's nothing one man can do. He can only make it worse in some cases. But the chaos is coming. It's simply because our financial system is corrupt. Our money is no longer money. Someday, all paper money, like the U.S. dollar is, and the franc, the euro and the yen, will ultimately go to zero. It always has. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, you're at the right place at the right time, listening to, I hope, passing on the best information, the best message I can. That's why we have Rich Dad Radio, so you can listen to things as they're changing. You will listen to people who are actually on the leading edge of this change, not the news commentators who cannot say what they want to say because it's the financial industry, like the mutual fund companies, that supports the advertising. So you're not getting real news in the financial news network. Mm-hmm. So that's why I really thank you guys for being part of this. Even if you have no money, you're just starting out, you're at the right place at the right time, and I thank you for that. And let's support the mission of Rich Dad to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. And that's why there's an extra book, a Pay It Forward, so you can give it to your friends and family.
Go to richdad20.com, and Thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.